What's going on, everybody? It's Jonesville Dirty here with the Unapologetic Instructors. Gonna break down some basic tools to kind of with my trip planning and how I address things with my truck. You know what I'm saying? First off, the basic functions, the basic things I pay focus to is where am I traveling to, the time allotted, you know what I'm saying, and what all do I need to get there? So for me, I'm always thinking, I never want to go into a major city in the morning, and I never want to come out in the afternoon. So that plays a lot of roles to trip planning. Most people come out, they're used to their local areas, not really understanding how the interstates or US highways run. So I'm gonna give some basics to that. You know what I'm saying? So the interstate system, odd numbers, they run north and south. That's the US 441, US 27, US 301. Those all run north to south. They start, all of those I know start in Florida and they run up north. 27 ends in Michigan, 301 ends in Maine. Forgot exactly where 441 ends at. But so concurrent to that is interstates. So you got I-95, north and south. I-75, north and south. So keep that kind of things in mind when traveling. And then, so if north and south is the odd numbers, even numbers are east and west. US 90, east and west. I-10, east and west. What you're basically looking at when you say even and odd, when I'm saying even and odd, are the last digit. The last digit will tell you what is running. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of goes into what exactly you're doing as far as traveling. The country is basically set up like a grid square, like a grid map. So I think about those types of things. But so there's deviations to it. Like everybody knows this interstate right here. If you drove a truck, you know about 285 in Atlanta. So we know that it's basically a north-south. You know what I'm saying? Because of the 5. But with it being 3 digits, the first digit, if the first digit is a even number, it's gonna be a circle. It's looping around the city at some point, a lot like 285 does. But we'll take an interstate like 395 in DC, the DC area. If it's an odd number at the beginning, we know that the 95 of it runs north and south, but the 3 or any odd number, it means that it's gonna end in the city. It's putting you in a city. It's basically a spur at that point. So be aware of that when you're traveling, when you're out. All of my loads that I get, first thing I look for is my miles, to and from the location as well as my miles. So when I'm looking at the miles, let's say I'm getting a load that's 350 miles. How I plan my trips, like I said, what cities am I traveling through, so basically the time of day that I'll be traveling through cities, any major ones. And so I take that and I just do it in simple math. I base everything off of 50 miles an hour. A lot of truck companies do, give or take 50 to 60 miles an hour depending on the company. So for me, I do a quick little math. I bust down the zeros, I drop that 5 over there, and I figure it's gonna take me 7 hours. That gives me a rough estimate of what I need to see if I can make it by my appointment time. Now, with that, once I figure that in, with that 7 hours, I also figure in how much fuel I have with me. So if I don't have fuel, I'm gonna figure in another 15 minutes. It's under 7 hours, but me, I like to take a break probably every 5 to 6 hours anyway, so I figure in another 30 minutes for my 30-minute break in there. Not always possible, sometimes you gotta run straight through, but if I can, I try to figure that part in as well because I'm not trying to overexert myself. So automatically, this 7-hour trip just turned into an 8-hour trip for me. So now I'm giving traffic, accidents, things that I can't control. So now I'm automatically thinking about for delays, I'm gonna add up another hour, putting me at 9 hours. So at that 9 hours within that trip, how I'm thinking about it is 9 hours. If I can make it before that, cool. If I can't, if I can make it closer to this 7, I'm gravy. The 8, now I start worrying myself if I can't make it in the 9. Why? There had to be something else that came up or something else that goes on. It's not just get in the truck, drive, and then we're there. You have to know all your variables. One of the bigger tools a lot of people use is the GPS. Everybody relies on it. I know the company has a GPS on the Qualcomm system here at Prime, which is a tool, and all of these are nothing more than tools. So for me, I use the Rand McNally. I use the Rand McNally GPS, very interactive, because it interacts with, guess what most maps are made from, Rand McNally. Pick these up at any truck stop, company store, anything to that nature. And so for me, I use my Qualcomm. I also put the address inside of my GPS. And I sometimes check the atlas depending on where it's at. And I also use Google Maps. I use Google Maps in the satellite mode, not to drive with because, I mean, it's set for a car. So it's not gonna give you the routes that you need to take. But what I use it for is my, looking at the location. So I can see, because there's not always listed that it's gonna be overnight parking or whatever in a location. So I look at Google Maps, look at the area, see maybe this street isn't a good street to turn in on. Maybe they're parking on the side of the street at this location, and I see a lot of trucks, so okay, maybe that's where they're resting at or whatever, taking their break. I'm constantly using every tool I have available for me. Now, it's not always feasible to use Google Maps. It's not feasible. Sometimes they even trust the GPS, which common sense should apply instead of always relying on electronics. Those things fail. Hopefully your mind never fails. So, but there's tools that you can use. You can use your micro 19 as well as your 15 to help plan your trip. You know what I'm saying? Look at how many hours you're gonna have in a day. Well, of course, we have a 14-hour clock, the 11-hour clock, the 8-hour clock, and the 70. But know what that day is gonna entail. I know that I start in the mornings. I normally like to start about 5 o'clock because I know my 14 will run out by the time it's 7 o'clock, which means for me, parking is important, getting a shower every day. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm gonna look into that on how I plan my day. If I know I'm going into the Northeast area, I may get up and start driving at 1 o'clock in the morning. That way, I'm shutting it down by roughly about 2 o'clock, so I can 2-3 o'clock, so I can get my shower, try to get some parking. Not always feasible, but I'm definitely shooting to try to make my trips easier for me and make sure I got comfort at the end. So I would definitely see and plan on stuff like that. So the baseline of planning your trips is gonna be really you just understanding what's going on out there, using every tool that's available for you, whether it's your macros or your GPS, multiple GPSs. I mean, you can't have too much information to plan a trip. There's too much information being handed out that's bullshit about this game that we're in, but at the same time, that's something that you can control your informational flow. So I would definitely look ahead. You know what your city is like I said, plan your trips. Never go into a city in the morning. Everybody's going into the city in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's coming out in the afternoon. So things like that, plan on that. I mean, if you want to be a strictly night driver, understand how to plan your trips on how to be a night driver. I mean, like I said, I drive early in the morning so that I could get off pretty much during the daytime. So I'm a predominant day driver. If you're a night driver, maybe you start driving at, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Carry it over and stop by the next morning. No matter what it is, I'm trying to get to every delivery point I have where I could get at least an 8-hour break, if not a 10-hour break before I get there. I want time to relax before I get into the door and get unloaded. Every trip is planned based on me getting there as soon as possible at the easiest way. Sometimes that means I may have to bypass home just to get that load there and then catch home coming out, if possible. You know what I'm saying? If I really want home time, I take home time. But I try to get my loads, because that's what we're out here for, is the money that we make from carrying these loads. I'm planning every trip to be there early and ahead of time. So if this information right here helps you at all, you know what I'm saying, like, click, subscribe, ring the damn bell. We'll have more information out there as soon as we can. I appreciate any suggestions anybody give us. We welcome all feedback. You know what I'm saying? This old Jonesville Dirty, I'm up out of here, baby.